We're now looking at a merchant, and a very important one. His name was Robert Campbell, and he was a Scot born in 1769. By the time that Governor Brisbane, who was the first governor after Governor Macquarie arrived in the colony in 1822, Robert Campbell was a rich and successful trader, banker, businessman and shipbuilding owner. So with his power, his money, his wealth, he was to be a strong influencer on the three governors who succeeded Lachlan Macquarie. I'm Michael Beashall here again, Australian historical fiction writer, and we're here to highlight this famous man who had such an influence on the first half of the 19th century in Sydney. So, let's just recap. Let's go back to that primitive time before Macquarie. Before 1822, Robert Campbell arrived in the colony in 1801 during Governor King's stewardship, and he kicked some serious goals. In 1804, he had over £50,000 worth of stock in his warehouse, an unbelievable sum in today's dollars. In 1807, he was both the original colony's banker and also a builder of ships at Kirribilli, which is now the site of the Royal Yacht Squadron. Now, soon after Governor Darling arrived in the colony, he made Robert Campbell a member of the Executive Council, remember that cabinet that was going to support the governor. A type of cabinet that reported to the governor on serious, mostly colonial matters. Now, for a man of Robert Campbell's wealth and position, this is what I think would to be expected. He was a man of his time, and his position not quite upper class, but certainly from his trading days, he was of the upper class, and he voted with others like Scott and Macleay to not only have press censorship, but also to exclude those low-born in society from appearing on juries. In 1828, Robert Campbell sided with John Macarthur, helping draft laws and regulations to convert New South Wales into their own fiefdom of wool and merchandise. Macarthur for wool and Campbell for merchandise. Now, to us in the 21st century, this seems terribly harsh and imperialist, an exploiter for his own gains. But just remember, there was just this very big group in New South Wales who wanted the same things, and in a benevolent way and a well-meaning way. After all, New South Wales was but an offshoot of all that was cultural, government and society in England. We wouldn't expect anything else. Robert Campbell was instrumental and part of the group who wanted to bring down Governor Darling because of his views and attitudes to the rising of the lower class, which Campbell believed should be in their proper place. So he's like Macarthur and Marsden and others. Campbell believed that Darling was, and I quote, reducing discontent and insubordination among the prisoners of the Crown. Robert Campbell was also on the committee for the new land regulations of 1831, which we spoke about. Now, a year later, in 1832, this powerful merchant, who at this stage owned large sections of land in the limestone plains, vehemently objected to exposing his own children to the horrors of sharing a jury box with convicts, if convicts were allowed to be members of the jury. It was just anathema to him. He couldn't understand that this could be the case. When Darling left and Governor Richard Burke took over, he was still hostile to Burke's Whig policies, which were anathema to a Tory like Campbell. Robert Campbell would continue to harass Burke right up to when the governor left Sydney at the end of 1837. Robert Campbell was to die in 1846. I'm Michael Beashall. Well, that's one prominent merchant looked at. In a future video, we'll look at the wool industry and the small merchandising industry. So, long for now.